X-Men Apocalypse is directed by Bryan Singer and stars James McAvoy, Michael Fassbender, Jennifer Lawrence, and Oscar Isaac. And it is the third in this new continuation universe storyline of the X-Men universe. And in this one we have Apocalypse, played by Oscar Isaac, being awoken after thousands of years of being asleep. Now, Apocalypse is one of the first ever mutants and has been around for thousands and thousands of years. And he is awoken sometime in the 80s with the plan to take over the world, purge it of all the weak, and leave it for only the strong to survive, which pretty much means just mutants. And it's up to the X-Men to put a stop to it. And we have Michael Fassbender and James McAvoy returning as Magneto and Professor X respectively, and once again their performances are the shining light in this movie. They've been doing a great job with these characters ever since X-Men First Class. They are the standout in this movie by a long way. There's one scene in particular with Magneto, once again no spoilers here, spoiler-free review, but there's one scene in particular with him that is extremely powerful, extremely emotional, and he sold it really well, and it is just one of the best scenes in all of the X-Men movies. And that is the real strength of this movie, and I feel the strength of the Bryan Singer X-Men movies especially. It's not necessarily the action, it's the character moments, the character progression. All those moments in this movie especially are great. And there are moments in this movie where the action is great, and you want the action to be really good in these comic book movies, and especially Quicksilver's scene in this movie pretty much eclipses the scene in Days of Future Past. It is fantastic once again. But unfortunately, that's where the movie starts to fall apart. It's the rest of the action and the rest of the story that I just really couldn't get behind. A lot of the special effects in the action scenes are really rubbery and just, it doesn't feel like a 2016 movie. It feels like a, early 2000s or late 2000s kind of movie with the special effects. And it does provide you with those moments where you're sort of taken out of the movie and you're just like, oh, that's definitely just CGI. That wasn't good at all. And then on top of that, the story in this movie isn't all that strong. Like, it's a fairly simple story when you get down to it. It's Apocalypse trying to take over the world, but just felt very, very messy at times, didn't really feel cohesive, and I just found myself a lot of the time going, what's happening here right now? Why is that happening? Now, with a really convoluted storyline like Days of Future Past, it managed to keep me hooked the entire time. I only watched it a couple of nights ago in preparation for this movie, and I found the story really easy to follow, even though it is branching across multiple timelines, whereas this one, existing only in the one timeline, felt even more confusing. Now, Oscar Isaac as Apocalypse is kind of the reason for this. His portrayal of Apocalypse isn't the best I feel he could have done. He's a fantastic actor. I love him in a lot of the stuff he's done, but in this I just felt like there was something missing from his character. There was a lack of real motivation. That line that he delivers in the trailer, and from the ashes we'll build a better world, or something similar to that, he repeats that like 8 times in the movie, and it seems to be like his only line of dialogue half the time. And I just found myself going, okay, you've said that already, we get that. What's your motivation after that fact? Like, where do you go from there? And it just felt like his character was just really sort of, I want to destroy the world, but there was no real plans in place after that, and it felt like his character was really hollow and really one-dimensional. We had some new characters, or old characters, but in new versions of them introduced in this movie as well. We had Nightcrawler, Cyclops, and Jean Grey, and all their performances were pretty solid across the board. But of all the characters in this movie, Professor X, Magneto, and Quicksilver are the standouts. Now, this movie does have a few cool Easter eggs and cameos that I will get into in my spoiler discussion that will come out in about a week or so. But aside from that, when I walked out of this film, I just kind of felt a bit hollow, a bit sort of like, well, that could have been so much more than it was, and it just sort of failed to just get to that point, like the Days of Future Past sort of scale. It felt huge, it felt really big, and it was a great movie, and I love getting sucked into it. This one, maybe my expectations were a bit too high going into the movie, and it just didn't live up to those expectations. So with all that being said, some great performances from a few key actors, unfortunately a subpar villain and some subpar action scenes. I'm giving X-Men Apocalypse 3 out of 5 Wolverines. So if you've seen X-Men Apocalypse, what did you think? Let me know in the comments down below. Click right here for all your movie needs. And as always guys, catch you in the next one.